Thanks, John. Thanks, everyone. As a public servant of nearly 30 years, I feel very much risk here. I'm the last presenter between you and networking. Networking means the same as it did to me when I was in the public service. Let's be quick. A bit of my background, I'm an ex-CIO. I've only been at Telstra about 5.5 years, so worked in Tasmanian State Government for about 28 years as CIO of Health and of Justice. I was, for my sins, made Director of Projects of State Significance at one point in my career, and it led me to do something exactly like we've just signed on with MAV to do here today. What we've been doing with MAV is sort of going along a road where hopefully we can talk about things like cloud, and it's become one of the words that I hate the most in the industry. It's become the panacea word for everything, and cloud fixes a lot. And hopefully today I'll throw some questions out there that you might try and answer. Trust me, I've done this before, and it has worked, and it's been working for almost a decade and a half. And it's been highly successful in the state, which is known as the Australian basket case. The IT environment there has changed considerably, and it's a business enabler on the back of that has been the most exciting part of it. I did one of my first pieces of work in Telstra was to do a bit of work with a group of local governments in northern Tasmania to see if we couldn't do that wonderful collaboration work, which is always seen as the way out of financial mire. And I think really that is the only way that organisations such as yourselves can turn around the situation that you're in. We surveyed every general manager or CEO, and we surveyed the CIOs, and we spoke to elected reps, and we spoke to other corporate services directors. And as you can see in 2010, they were the things that were the number 1, 2, 3 to 7 most important things on their agenda. Today is 2014. There's not much change, is there? And that's a small group of about 11 councils in northern Tasmania. So the purpose here is to show, I'm sure you've been taken through all those issues that are before you countless times today and countless times in the last couple of years. The only difference now is they've moved from impending to urgent. And it's getting to the stage where in local government, either you do something or someone will do it to you. I came from that environment in government where there were 37 different agencies. Today there's 8. So that kind of stuff is on the landscape. In terms of the backdrop, in terms of council, again, nothing you haven't heard already today. Tighter public sector funding, pressure on councils to retain their identity and independence in whatever sort of structure and framework you want to do. There are large unfunded infrastructure gaps, increasing numbers of councils with operating deficits and struggling to make do, and managers finding it, and I'm not talking about IT managers, but managers finding it much more difficult to do the things that they're there to do council business. IT specific, well, continuing to try and shave costs. How do we do it? We've got to do it cheaper. It's the first thing, do it cheaper. And that's become a real focus. Continuing to drive for individual vendor-driven systems. We need to get a system to fix that thing. Okay, let's go get one. Let's fix that thing. And you've got this Peter in the Dyke approach where we're trying to plug the holes, and it's not quite really working. One of the biggest things that I talk to local government about is purchasing for price, not strategic advantage. And IT managers, typically CIOs, buy something because it's the cheapest. If they purchase a piece of IT equipment, I would suggest that doesn't impact on the business outcome of their council. They've wasted their money. It's one thing to save money, it's another thing to actually do more with the same money. And increasingly local government and councils are being asked to do more, do more, do more. Do more with less even, or do more with at least with the same. So why would you try and cut the money down? Collaborations is very ad hoc. If 2 or 3 councils decide to get together and do something that's great, maybe 4 or 5, how can we create an environment where that can be different, where it can be strategic and we can do it together? Struggling to acquire skill and maintain skilled workers. I've also been in the private sector, and I've been global IT infrastructure manager for a well-known group of companies in Australia, investment bank, one that's he's in Macau most of the time these days, and he gets into fights with his Channel 9 guy. And The issue in Australia is very much like this. It doesn't matter which state you come from, and Tassie's no different to any other. The further you go away from the capital cities, the harder it is to get skilled people. And once you've got them, it is very difficult to keep them skilled and to keep those skills very current. And once you've got them and you've skilled them up and you've kept them current, the next challenge is to keep them. Because the guy who works next to you is looking, oh, I might get in. He's a good fellow to have. So you finish up with this merry-go-round of the same people. And it's very, very difficult. IT resources in local government are not very plentiful. So that in itself is a major challenge. The cloud, my favourite word, is that the answer? I just want to throw some questions at you, not so much answers. We've worked through some of the answers in terms of what we've done with the MAV. But these are just some of the questions that certainly have confronted people in Tassie and other places. What is the cloud? Is it just storage? Like, is it just this thumping big server that lives somewhere that people can go and put applications on? Or is it the world's biggest file server? Has it got disaster recovery? Well, I don't know. Does it offer me any backup? Yeah, it might do. Infrastructure as a service, what's that, and how is that different to cloud? Don't know. Or are they all the same thing? But then there's whose cloud? Whose cloud? Do I go into a single cloud? Like, I work for Telstra, come and join our cloud. We'd love it if everyone came to our cloud. Or do we go to Amazon's cloud? Because they've got a good cloud too. Or do we go to a specific purpose, solution-based cloud? I heard someone say, let's go to the Tech One cloud, or the Civica cloud, or the Microsoft cloud. Whose cloud's the right cloud here? Is it one in all in? Do we all have to go to the same cloud? Or can we pick and choose which cloud? So if I want to be a Civica customer and the guy next to me wants to be a Tech One, does he have to go to the same cloud for that? Or not? Or can each pick and choose? So can we go horses for courses? Can we go best practice? Who provides the best general ledger solution? I don't know. I might like the red one, this guy might like the green one, and this one over here, the purple with pink spots one. Can we have an environment where we can pick the one we like, yet we can all collaborate? And the guy who chose the pink with purple spots can share his information with the green one. Food for thought. So what does cloud cost? Who pays first? So is it user pays? Or is it licensing pays? Or is it number of concurrent users? Or, hang on a minute, and how do we pay? Do we all just buy it in one job lot, give the bill to MAV and they'll divvy it up? Do we all work it out on number of FTEs, number of employees, how do we do that? And then the licensing, I don't know if any of you ever tried to do something with a Microsoft product in the cloud. You'll soon understand what licensing means. You'll save a lot on the infrastructure. Existing contracts and leases. So how do we do this? I've just leased all this equipment and now someone wants me to go onto the cloud with them. So how do I turn that off? So can I not go because I've got that? Or do I then have to wait and make a separate decision? There's lots of things to consider. Then there's the transition. How do we get to the cloud? Well, when do we go and how do we go? Who's coming with me? And is it big bang, high risk? Does my whole council go to the cloud in one go? Or does every council in New South Wales go for general ledger now? Sounds a bit risky, doesn't it? And who drives those priorities? Who says what first? Who says asset management's the most important to me, HR is the most important to me, I want to do payroll? How do you do that? And in all that sort of context, how do you provide business continuity? Because you've got to provide services to constituents and ratepayers. How do you do that? So we need a mechanism that allows us to do that and to do it well. I choose not to use the word cloud, but I use the word platform, just to avoid the word cloud, because cloud gets confusing. It can mean the same thing. But a platform to me means something about providing a level of collaboration that allows you to do stuff and answers some questions that typically aren't easily answered. You might at some point think, does this guy actually work for Telstra? Because in the environment that I've come from, you can buy connections from Telstra IINet, Optus, anyone to get the same level of collaboration. You can use 6 different data centres and no one really cares. So it can be done and it is being done. So this platform thing, what are the characteristics of it? Well, firstly, it needs to be high capacity, it needs to be modern, and it needs to allow for every council to interact, not just for a purpose, not just for a single point solution, but just to allow them to interact. So they can share files and documents, and they have single centre mails and all those sorts of things, to interact whenever they choose to. It needs to be scalable from small beginnings. I mean, I'm working with the MAV, there's 79 councils in Vic. They're not all going to 79 go, yeah, we're coming tomorrow. We might get 2 or 3 to start with, so we need to be able to do this on an environment that allows to scale from 3 to 79. We need to ensure that councils can join this platform and join it when they want for the things that only the things that they do want to use it for. They might want to get HR, they might want to get asset management, but they might not want to get general ledger. Sorry, no, we're going to do that ourselves. So we'll come and access that through you. Have the ability to let it grow and have a design that lasts you for at least 5 years. I'd suggest probably 10 would be more sensible. If we're going to do this, we're going to design this platform, we're going to do it once. We don't want to be back in here in 3 years' time having the same discussion. So it's got to be an architecture of some capacity and scalability. The other key feature is it's got to have a single point of connection through which a council can get everything. At the moment, that single point of connection is called the internet. Not really all that secure, but it would be very useful if a council could buy a single connection to something, and down that single pipe came the internet, any of their cloud services, their mail, a whole range of different things. Their Microsoft solutions, their web-based cloud applications, whatever it is, it came down that pipe. Their connections to the federal government, to the state government, came down that single pipe. Their telephony, making phone calls, comes down the same pipe. And that's the environment that exists today across Tasmanian state government. There's 8,000 connections like that. But every entity and every building that joins into a collection for one agency, and that agency has one connection to the platform. One connection that they pay for once, and they understand the size and the scalability of once. So what we also want to ensure is that each council can maintain its own independence. Those Chinese walls have got to be kept. So in this wonderful great platform where we're all holding hands and just like the old Alpine had, and dancing into the sunset with the daisies, we have to keep stuff private. This is government. So we don't want to share everything. So those discrete walls need to be kept apart, equally between each council as it does between state and government. I should point out too that the vision for, certainly I know, Victorian government is to have a single connection to local government. So we're just talking about the same sorts of things coming down the pipe. And of course, the other thing is that this platform's got to be affordable and commercially sustainable. If it doesn't cut the mustard, it ain't going to work. Okay, there's some not negotiables. And these are the things that, between myself and Mav, we've worked out other things that we must have. It's got to be competitive at every layer. People have to have choice. You can't just go and say this is all with a big capital T Telstra. If I want to buy my connection to this platform from Optus or from Double, IINet or whatever, I should be able to do that. Yeah. Contestable and self-regulating. One of the things that they find great in Tassie at the moment is they're not really wanting to go to tender that much. They don't have to, because the competition does that for them. They don't have to keep asking, are they getting best value for money? Because the competitors at each layer are competing with each other and keeping each other honest. So we've got 5 internet providers, or, well, actually there's 3 internet providers. So we can buy internet from any one of 3 different providers. You can buy connectivity from 5, and you can buy data centre services from 6 of them. So they're just keeping each other honest, and the government doesn't have to continually go back benchmarking, checking, am I getting value for money? Opt-in. It's got to be on a basis where a council, and each council as it chooses when it's ready, and that can be not only when it's ready in terms of its thinking or its priorities, it might be when it's ready in terms of its own infrastructure commitments. Yeah, I'll come now, I'm ready now. Oh, I won't be ready till next March. Okay, that's fine too. So it can't be none of this dictatorial type stuff. The platform says yes. The whole concept of this platform notion is that anything can connect to anything else. If I've got I'm in Golden Plains and I've got an Optus connection to the platform and I want to go through that out an internet connection to a hosted application that lives over there, I can. The council next door might use iiNet and go to exactly the same place, and yes, they can. The council next door to that might want to use their Telstra connection and go to a different data centre for the same application, yes, they can too. So the platform just doesn't become an issue anymore. None of the interoperability issues. End-to-end service assurance. So we get into some of the tin tacks. Who's going to guarantee this is going to work? And that's really what Telstra's role is in this. It's not doing everything. It's not being the total solution. It's guaranteeing that stuff works. In the instance that we did in Tasmania, I wasn't on the Telstra side, I was on the Premier and Cabinet side, I guess. We signed service level agreements alone with Telstra that were 118 pages. Every month there's a meeting between Telstra and the other suppliers with the Premier's Department, and they say, here's how we've gone this month, here's where we've failed to meet our targets, and here's your check. Quite a different concept. So service level agreements are incredibly important, because not only do they do things like guaranteeing installation time, guaranteeing that data goes from one place to another. This is government. They've got to guarantee integrity. So they've got to guarantee that the data doesn't get changed. And it's got to be secure as well. So all those sorts of things that are in the backdrop of an IT director in any level of government every day, someone has to take responsibility for that as it goes from place to place across this platform. Pay as you go. It's got to be pay as you go. It can't be any different. How exactly we might structure that is probably a question for another time, but yeah, that needs to be the case. And of course, really what MAV would purchase off Telstra should we make this work is risk mitigation. If something goes wrong, and the more you add competition, if we're going to add in 6 data centres, three solution providers, 4 internet services, what happens when it goes wrong? Anyone who's worked in technology can tell you, when you ask the suppliers whose fault was it? Anybody but mine. So the risk mitigation thing has to be very strong. It's got to be one of the key things, is that when Telstra signs on the dotted line, they're saying, I'm going to guarantee that will work. And that's what my job is. So the challenges. These are the key ones for me. I was charged by a Premier to make this happen across a whole range of government agencies, and in the finish, it was so unsuccessful. I was so screamingly unsuccessful that we had to tell them they were going to do it. But we got there. So consensus and commitment is the key thing. So everyone's got to say, yeah, we're going to go do that. Not today or tomorrow eventually, but that's where we're going. So we all know where the goalposts are, and we're going to commit to that. So whilst we can't all do and execute, except for different stages, we're going to do it. Legal and commercial frameworks is extremely important again. All these different players, Optus, Telstra, iiNet, Amazon, Civica, Logic, or whoever it is, all have to have a legal and commercial framework to say how they're going to play. If we're going to be competitive in this thing, then they've all got to play ball and play nicely and play together. The only way to do that is threaten them and make them sign contracts. And it works. Development of the service catalogue is another challenge. What do we want to start with? We've seen the Gulf Cloud thing from Queensland, a very sensible place to start. Some of the internet value-added services is a very sensible place to start with some of this stuff. And why in the Victorian government, for example, would you have 79 internet connections? Well, doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? So, and if you think even just simple things like anti-spam, 79 councils have got antivirus, anti-spam. They're all checking their antivirus, anti-spam. They've all got a server with licenses on it, doing antivirus, anti-spam. Only problem is when they download it and it comes from the internet, they've got to wait till it gets delivered to the council before they can check it, which means they've already paid for it. And if you think that 80% of all internet traffic email is spam, they're paying 80% already more than they should. So those sorts of things are a great place to start, and I commend Queensland for doing that. Someone's got to work out the priorities, and whether or not it's internet value-added services or whatever it is, there needs to be some priorities set here for what sorts of things you put through this platform. Technology challenges. How am I going for time here? Doing all right? Maximise IT resources is a key one. Embrace change, obviously, but in that context, identify what is core business and what's not core business. One of the things as an IT director I quickly learned is the more that I had my guys using a mouse, a keyboard and a screwdriver, the more I was wasting their heads. What I wanted them to do was give me really smart advice and understand how technology could impact on business outcomes. I didn't need them to run a help desk or help desk perhaps, but I didn't need them to actually go fix things. I wanted to work through, okay, what sorts of things do I need to be involved in and what don't I need to be involved in? And I suspect the more physical ones are not that. The price or strategic advantage thing I've gone on about, a transition from doer to strategic and performance manager. So your IT guy should be more considering, because he's smart and he understands how technology works, he should be monitoring the people that are doing it for you. It's almost impossible for him to do the whole thing himself. So once he works out what's his core business, all the stuff that's being delivered to him by contractors, he can be managing for you and telling you how well they're doing it. And if they're not doing it well, hit them for their penalties and hit them for their rebates and all sorts of things and make them do a good job. Yeah, that's a shame. Understand the value of technology solutions in business, and I've touched on that too. If someone buys some technology and it doesn't impact on the business outcome, it's on the strategic paper and the strategic targeted objectives of the council, it's wasted. Collaborate. I won't go on too long about and just wind up, but certainly the whole focus of this is about collaboration. It's one thing to say that we can put a solution in the cloud and it's a cool idea, but that's a single solution. And really, several times I've heard the word here today talking about different topics, collaborate. We need to collaborate, we need to do things together. Well, how do you do that unless you've got a mechanism that lets you do it? And that's the driver of what we've been about. I've just popped this up. This is copyright MAV, so excuse me, thank you very much, Lisa. I pinched a slide from one of her presentations. I think that's the opportunity summary. That's what awaits you if you can get it right. I think to me it's a very powerful slide. Thank you.